All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the Unlocked podcast. I am Tony Hokinson, and I'm with Lars Johnston and Chad Lingefelt.
Hey, Tony. It looks like you forgot your towel today.
Yeah,
It
got
is.
my sweater instead.
And you got a shirt on.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's always good. All right. Sorry. Go ahead, Tony.
Wow. Well, today we are talking about how to turn lots of locks and sales into money. So,
What? Lots of locks, like a lot of locks, or lots of locks.
You can interpret it however you want.
I like lots of locks.
The goal is
Hokinson.
turning sales and into money. So sometimes they don't always translate to one another. So
turning locks into money or sales into money.
Yeah, everything, anything, whatever you're selling.
This is a working title.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with.
Yeah.
So now that we have the title out of the way, just a real quick question: what are we talking about today?
We are talking about everything relating to running a profitable business. So pricing strategies, how to, it's a good question. So we're going to start with pricing strategies and see where it takes us.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about pricing strategies, how you, are we talking about exactly what to charge for things, or we're just how we arrive at the rate?
So a lot of times you go to industry conferences and you hear people talking about, how much revenue are you doing? How much revenue are you doing? Well, you know what? Revenue doesn't matter if you're not turning it into profit. So the question is, how can you translate busyness into
This isn't a collusion podcast.
No.
Right.
Wow.
Maybe that could be the title. The Collusion Podcast.
This isn't a collusion product. No.
You can just picture the Asabloy people that listen to this just like hitting mute, like delete, throwing their. I just picture Joey Kingma throwing his laptop out the window, right, like into a dumpster right now. Burn the dumpster. Burn the dumpster.
So we're not going to be talking about price fixing and collusion.
Yes.
We're just talking about
how to run a profitable business.
Okay.
That's a good title. You could run with that.
How to run a profitable business. How to keep some of the money that you make.
Yes. Try and make more than you spend.
Okay, well, welcome to the Unlocked podcast. We are three business owners from North Carolina, Minnesota, and Alberta, Canada, and we've joined forces to create this Unlocked podcast to share some of our insights on building businesses that we hope will last longer than us and will do more than just what we can do. So that's one of the reasons why we are combining our conversations on a weekly basis and sharing it out with you. Thank you very much for being here. Our website is unlockedpodcast.com.
Hey, got it.
There, we got it.
We got it. It is not the Unlocked Podcast.
It's unlockedpodcast.com. And you can subscribe to our podcast there. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's all available. And you
really should. You really should. Hit the subscribe button because it makes me feel better. Yeah. When I logged in and saw we had one subscriber and it was Chad, I was a little devastated.
Do you really need anything to make you feel better about yourself?
No, he doesn't. He feels really good about himself. But we have had
violence already.
What Sparky? Sparky.
He is.
I hope Uncle Glenn's listening.
Because he's in that sauna, he's sweating, he's a little perturbed.
Get a little frustrated by that.
Like, if you are not watching this on YouTube, pop over just so you can see Tony's ridiculous background.
Tony. Yes, this is not, for what it's worth, I didn't have anything to do with this. This office used to be an insurance agency, and they put up this cheap fake wood from
and it wasn't worth it wasn't worth the story. Okay, so real quick.
Wow.
For what it's worth.
For what it's worth.
It wasn't worth.
Talk about Sparky.
Sparky. We've got, to go back, we've had some really cool feedback from some of the folks that have posted on Facebook and our YouTube channel and contact us by email and all those, of how they're listening to the podcast and they're getting some value out of it, hopefully, or at least going, hey, these are definitely things we don't want to do.
These guys are idiots.
As long as we steer clear of this, we're going to be great. So we appreciate that. And everything that you're sending our way, we are trying to figure that out and apply it. So we're ready to get into it. Again, we're not talking about collusion. We're not talking about price fixing. We're trying to figure out how you keep some of the money that you generate from running your locksmith business.
The strategery around pricing and placing yourself within the market.
Okay. Yeah. So do the number one question, because this that I have, as we're talking about this, Tony, you've done a fantastic job with this outline that we probably will not do anything with, but the strategy around how you price things, because Lars loves it whenever you ask, how do you go about this? And the answer comes back as,
it depends.
It depends, right?
It depends.
So how do you set up a strategy? What kind of strategies are we using for our pricing? I'm interested in this. We have Yeah. So go ahead, Tony. Get us.
I was hoping you would answer that one because I feel like I've had some.
All right, Tony. Okay, let me get started then. Well, Tony reboots his mainframe.
So I wanted Chad to talk to this because I've actually had quite a few conversations with him over the last 6 months about this and actually learned some from him because he tends to have some knowledge from time to time.
Boring.
Make up most of it on the fly.
Historically, I took a class at ISC West about 10 years ago that was about growing your service revenue from Alan Krugelak. And one of the things he talked about was, I think actually some of our listeners might know who that guy is, but anyways, he has a lot of books that he wrote about being profitable in the service industry. Here's a nice picture of the guy here. Happens to be on my desk.
Looks good. I think you're getting to a point here, Tom. By all means.
Have this random article with a guy's photo in the sauna. Yeah. I'm so confused what's going on right now.
Anyways, he talked about pricing accordingly in his model, and good, bad, and different was keep raising your prices, keep raising your prices, keep raising your prices. Basically, that people don't charge enough.
Is that really a model?
Be proud of what you're. I'm going to get there if you guys let me finish here. And his model was keep raising your prices, charge more, be proud of what you're doing. You're delivering good value and charge accordingly for it. Now, that's a model that you can do, and it can work to some point. But I've had some more intentional conversations with Chad about this in the last 6 months about Chad. How do you set your pricing? And he's offered some good words of wisdom on that. So I'll let him share those.
It was just keep raising the prices.
No, you actually had some more logic behind what
that was
what
a
you guys
4-minute
do.
intro to just say, Chad, do you want to talk?
Let's take this one. Okay. Maybe this is what Tony's talking about, and he's really set me up in a very broad structure here, so I don't know where I'm headed. I attended a pricing conference about 6 months ago, which was incredibly eye-opening to me because it walked through some functional strategies and formulas to get to where we are. Because I think for the most part, we all have either just kind of continued on what we had been doing previously, or maybe what was in existence before, but there wasn't really a rhyme or reason to it. And so the couple of takeaways that I had was from this pricing conference. A guy, he did a couple of funny things. So I'll tell one funny story and then I'll get to a real story. But he polled the room. So he had one of those presentations where everybody could vote on it, like from your mobile phone. And he said, now I pulled this off of the local results, but what is the average price of gas currently per gallon? And so he had 4 different prices up there. And everybody in the room chose the exact same price for a gallon of gas, except for one person, which was completely erratic. And he was like, what in the world? Like, how did everybody in the room choose this one price and this one person is completely off base?
Tony of the group. Yeah.
Does somebody drive an electric car or something? And I was like, I have no clue what a gallon of gas costs because I haven't bought one in years. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Which was fun. Okay, that was the funny
on
story.
Brand.
Yeah. Point of it was that a gallon of gas is something that consumers are price conscious about because if you're pumping gas, you know exactly what you're paying for it every single time because you're price conscious.
Right.
He then moved it to the next survey, which was how much do you think, and I'm going to ask you guys this, and hopefully it's not too crazy based off of our different regions, but how much do you think a 1.5 ounce of Tabasco sauce costs in the grocery store? That's a question for you guys.
$7.
$7.
$6.42.
$6.42. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up real quick. And so 1.5 ounce Tabasco sauce.
I love when podcasts do this. Well, they're like, oh, let me just Google this. Like, because that's interesting listening for everyone.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm trying to make sure that I'm on it here. Okay, currently, that's the wrong one here. It's about $1.75.
You did say 1.5 ounce. I was envisioning like a 6 ounce, but
I don't know what an ounce is. I could tell you milliliters, but
so here you go.
Terrible example.
No, it's a great example.
Point is, no one has a clue.
Yes.
Nobody has a clue because you go and buy a Tabasco sauce. So right now on Amazon, 2 ounce bottle of Tabasco sauce is $1.90. you both would have paid clearly $7 for it and really wouldn't have thought anything about it.
Right.
But you will price shop gas between $3.25 to $3.45 because you're price conscious about it.
And and there's the question in our industry is how much to cut a key.
Correct.
Right. And if, people that are sitting there, if they're in the industry, they'll know. But the vast majority of people, if I said it was $20, they'd say, okay, cool. If I said it was $1.50, they'd say,
so
okay, cool.
I actually disagree with that. That made me think of something. I think that says something. If you're targeting commercial property managers and they come in your retail store, that's something they're going to pay attention to. I walk into Calgary and they charge me $7 for a key. I can go down the street and get it for $2.
I can go down
and then all of a sudden, I think they're
$2.
going to make their purchasing decisions based on that key. So I would make an argument that you could. I would make an argument that that's something that you might want to consider paying attention to what you're charging because people are going to pay attention to that.
For some, yes, you just pointed out the most aligned segment. That is, of the amount of customers we have, the property manager that walks into our retail store is, virtually zero. But yes, they would know it. I also know if you go to Boulder, Colorado, they just give keys away.
Huh?
Yeah, correct.
That's free.
There's some logic there.
And another component to add to that is if you buy the Tabasco sauce from Amazon, it's $1.90. But if you go to the local grocery store, you may pay $1.25 for it on the shelf because I had to get in my car and drive there. But Amazon delivered it to me for a few cents more. So if I'm a locksmith and I'm bringing you the keys and cutting them on site, there's a little bit of a different cost element associated with it versus a property manager walking into a retail store. Point of all of that.
Nice. Yeah. It depends. Thanks, Chad, for adding that.
But the point of all of that is that I was trying to get to is there are certain things that you just grab and you don't pay attention and you're not price shopping it because it's something that you need, it's something that you're getting on a regular basis. And then there are certain things that you are price conscious on. As an industry, we have typically taken the approach that we price everything the same way.
Right.
No matter what the item is, what we buy, what we pay for it, cost, we apply a certain markup, and that's what we sell to the customer across the board. And so the theory around this pricing seminar was, what are the items that are not priced shopped, that are high demand, low, high demand with low cost that you can have a higher margin on because there are other products and services
niche
that you have to be more price conservative on, that you've got to be price competitive. How do you look into your business and start to identify which ones of those are the hot sauce items for your company and for your customers?
Right. So there's probably some grown-ups listening that know there are economic terms for this. This isn't a Chad Lingefeld aha moment, but we're talking about elasticity to price.
Ooh.
Right.
Wow.
That's so I'll let you guys do
call me a non-grown-up?
I am.
I think he was taking a shot at your intelligence, actually.
I felt that.
I implied both, for sure.
At least your financial acumen.
Yes, and that's another big word, Chad. You'll have to Google acumen, but
and Gruber.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, baby. We're talking about the elasticity to price, and elasticity is simply referring to that demand or the demand's response to price. So, a highly elastic item, if it changes by a nickel, the demand changes because people go somewhere else. That's your gas. And then inelasticity is what we're talking about because really we're talking about such a niche. Like, who really knows? Now, Tony, there are going to be exceptions of the people that deal with locksmiths every single day. But the vast majority of people have no clue. And that's not to say that, okay, well, they don't have a clue, so let's take advantage of them.
I was just going to say.
But we are elastic because we're super sensitive. We know what things cost, and therefore we limit how we price it because of cost.
Yes.
And that's a backwards way of looking at it, in my opinion, because we should be valued on we should be engineering our pricing structure based on value.
Yes.
Correct. And perceived value is the key word. Because value more implies just, price and cost, but perceived value is what are you getting? And I'm going to say things that are done faster have higher perceived value. I'm not going to get into that quite yet, but our bias in the industry, and it's not going to be just us, it's going to be any industry, because we're so familiar with our products and our services, we are more sensitive to price ourselves.
Mhm.
Like if we were in the Tabasco industry, I'm sure we would know, $1.70 is a ripoff, but we're not. So we don't know. So there is an opportunity, exactly what Chad's saying, that, I hate saying that out loud, but there is an opportunity to leverage some of the most profitable areas of our business based on that elasticity that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to being intentional about price, Lars, how do you go about setting your price? What do you do to make sure that you're priced accordingly based on the value you're providing?
So a handful of things. If I'm taking a practical approach, it's important to understand your market. So I'd start there probably. We still make cold calls and still call around to competitors to get a feeling and an understanding of where we sit in the market, which, whether that has direct impact or not, I don't know. But, I do still want to know if we're charging $500 and everyone else is charging $50, there's probably something we're doing wrong. So we start there just to get a general sense. My strategy has always been we're going to be at the top end of the market, because I actually like that conversation when people say, "Oh, hey, you're actually more expensive," because it's something along the lines of, "Well, yeah, the value is there. Of course, it's more expensive. It's a high end product. It's a high end service." I almost encourage that conversation of why it's more expensive, because the flip side, it also gives me the motivation that we have to be better. We have to actually provide the service or goods that match that high-end model.
I've just been having that conversation with a couple of our sales team about, we are proud of the fact that we're the premium offering. We try to be the premium offering, but I think we sometimes fail to tell customers that, yes, we know we're going to be the most expensive, but here's why we're the most expensive. And a lot of times if you position yourself as the best, but you don't get out in front of why you're more expensive, a lot of times then customers just start going right back to, well, who's the cheapest, who's the cheapest, who's the cheapest. And a lot of times it's hard to, there's a pricing mantra out there, or just business philosophy of, you can only be good, fast, or cheap. You can't be all three of them. And you need to know what you want to be. And some people want to be fast and cheap, and that's fine. That's Amazon.
Walmart's
right? That's
pretty good at it.
Yes, that's a good model.
Amazon isn't even cheap, but I would say Walmart is.
Yes.
Amazon's convenient, for sure.
Yeah.
It's fast and it's
know what you want to be, and then price yourself accordingly. And if you want to be good, you price yourself accordingly. And look, that's a conversation I had with Chad, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months ago now, was actually being intentional about, okay, what is the amount of money we want to make in our business? And based on the quality of employees that we have and the quality of service we're offering, what is the price that we need to charge to get to that level of profit, and actually reverse engineering your labor rate based on what level of profit you want, as opposed to going the other way around. I've heard so many people talk about pricing and they say, "Oh, we're just going to increase this 5%. We're going to increase this 5%. Okay. Why? Why are you increasing it? Well, it just seems like the right number.
Why not 3?
Right,
Why not
right.
8? Right.
And
so you're talking about, some tangible, fact-based, objective reasoning for getting to where you are for price.
Yeah. Yep.
So pricing is a discipline, and that's where kind of Lars was headed in talking about, well, how do you assess the market? So you said, still doing some market understanding, know what that market price is. I'm going to agree with you to a point on it, and then utterly disagree on the cold calling type thing. Because I feel like if you're doing that, then all you're doing, you're kind of creating some stagnancy in your market. So one of the ways that you can start a discipline around it is with tracking. Number one, tracking your auto yeses. So people will all typically tell you, and your employees are going to tell you when somebody complains about price or how it's too expensive or whatever, and then we all immediately get that, oh no, we got to make this adjustment, or we've got to reduce pricing. Well, the one thing that this one statement that I've taken away multiple times, and I continue to share it with our team, is a customer's job is to pay less than what you're asking for in any transaction. So You go to buy a car. What is your ultimate responsibility? You're trying to pay less than what they have offered you. You go to negotiate any deal. The person with the purchase is always the one trying to pay less than what the buyer or what the seller is selling it for.
Yeah.
That's everybody's responsibility. So let's understand that. It's not like we're trying to beat each other up. It's just that is their job. That's the responsibility for their particular business. Your job as the seller is to get the most for it. Okay. So that's where the negotiation, the conflict comes. So a way to measure where you sit in the market is based off of the auto yes, because if you are excellent, you should be getting paid for your excellence. If you suck, then you've got to completely.
You should get paid for your suck.
Yeah. Okay. Let me quote that one down.
Taken out of context, that maybe wasn't the best analogy.
If you're excellent, you get paid for your excellence, and so you could. If you're just cold calling around and trying to get whatever the other market rates are, then you're just basing yours on saying that you're either moderate or the same to what everybody else is. But if you're measuring it against your approval, not just your approval ranking, but your approval rate, but your the auto yeses, meaning I sent this quote out and they signed it and said approved, versus how many of those have to be negotiated through your pricing structure.
So I think what you said is valuable, but I also still agree with Lars that it is valuable to know what others
You're a wise man.
are charging. It just don't necessarily base yours solely off of what they're saying. So for instance, you don't know what you're going to find.
Distraction?
Because it's still valuable. Like I've done it before, and you find out that some people are cheaper than you, and then all of a sudden some people are more expensive than you. And it's like, okay, like that's valuable information. We're trying to position ourselves as a premium provider, and there's people that are more expensive. So that it's still is valuable information to have in your decision making process. I just don't solely base it on that, is my opinion.
Well, so and one element of it.
I'm more talking about the temperature, really figuring out what the temperature is of the market, where we're at, how sensitive things are to price. There are specific things, like I'm going to talk about, our industry is miserable for a whole bunch of reasons, but the biggest thing we're good at.
You might want to explain that one a bit.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to just pause for a minute and let everyone be insulted.
It was pause for a sec.
Yeah, that was pause for effect. Everyone be insulted because I just said we're all miserable.
Yeah. You caught my attention.
Because all we do is sell our time. 90% of us, 95, 98% of us sell our time. If you ask anyone in our industry and anyone in the service industry in general, it's like, hey, what's your pricing? They'll tell you an hourly rate.
Yeah.
Which is the most
kill the hourly
barbaric, asinine, backwards pricing structure out there.
If you walked into Ford Motors and said, what's your labor rate? They'd say, well, for what service?
Right. Because it is value-based pricing versus time-based pricing. Right. This doesn't take an economics major to realize that somebody that's better at their job does things faster. Right. And that's how, lawyers and accountants, that's how these lawyers end up charging like $1,200 an hour, $1,500 an hour. Like that's an obscene amount of money, but the production that comes out, you can go pay someone.
Do they get the result?
Exactly. Because that's the next thing. Clients pay specifically, and what customers want, they want results, right? It's they're not paying for your time. What they want is for the problem to go away. Whether it takes you 10 hours or 1 hour, that's irrelevant. What they want is make the pain go away.
I just made a statement to somebody earlier today about that, because there was this discussion around installing customer provided parts and materials, and my response was I'm trying not to sound rude when I say this, but we're not handyman. We're providing a professional service that all comes together. You don't take parts for your BMW that you bought off of Amazon to the BMW dealership and say, "Will you install these for me?"
Yeah.
They would laugh at you and say, "Go find a shade tree mechanic." And that's, if you're negotiating on that and battling on that, then you are not getting paid for your excellence.
Yeah, and that's I'm another thing that I've heard and I've repeated and then just branded as my own. Where if you're trying to figure out how to move yourself out of that position of just selling your time. Start thinking of yourself as an expert and not a vendor. You're a consultant, you're an expert. You're not just selling something. You're consulting. You are the expert in the industry. And quite honestly, in the locksmith industry, that's not very hard to do, because who the hell knows how to pin a lock? Who knows how any of this stuff works? And that, I mean, you're saying you do. I haven't seen much dirt under your fingernails, Chad.
I understand the philosophy.
That would be a fun contest.
You understand the philosophy.
The three of us should have a lock pinning competition. Who can pin a lock faster between the three of us?
I have concepts of how to do it.
Yes, a nose picking conversation. I think I could provide some value, but lock picking is not really my.
Do you know
my
how
specialty.
to pin a lock?
Oh boy. Okay, go ahead. Back to your point there, Lars. Sorry.
Well, so I'm just going through, kind of the things that I rattled through in my mind. I tried to articulate it. And this was actually kind of a cool exercise, nice. Trying to articulate how I've come up with some of our pricing. Another. There's a big one. So, Chad, you talked about pricing and negotiating pricing, and one of the things that we do not do is we do not discount based off of feedback. We set a price that we believe accurately reflects the expertise that we're bringing. Because again, we're not a vendor. But we don't discount from that. So if somebody comes back and says, "Hey, we need to be a little tighter here, need to whatever the reason," so because that's their job is to get it cheaper. So instead of discounting, what I challenge our guys to do, and what I do constantly, is just add value. Okay, because if you add value, what we're really talking about when you're negotiating prices, you're really saying what we're getting isn't worth the money or the resource that we're putting towards it. So instead of reducing the resource, I increase the value. And that might mean, more consultation. That might mean, other areas, extended warranty, doing security audits, adding service plans, just bringing more to the table, explaining why our value is so much higher rather than dropping our price and lowering our value.
Okay, so a discount is an investment in a customer. Anytime that you apply a discount to a job, it is an investment in that particular customer. If you don't understand what your potential ROI is on it, so never give discounts based off of promise of future work. If you do, you're giving a false discount. It's like putting an investment, like here's $1,000 invested into this fund that may reduce that dollar by 15%, or you could get a 20% return, right? But you're investing it in there. So understand what your return is on that investment. And it's also the biggest leak of profits when you do discounts. Both of those are really a big challenge, but it's the easiest lever to pull, right? So somebody says this needs to be cheaper. Okay, discount everything 10%, discount everything, whatever. Okay, but now you have reduced the value of that product and that service. So one of the other things that I'll add to that for discussion is there are, as a company, lots of services that you provide as part of that offering that you do not one line item or do not put a price tag on. So maybe it's if you're doing a master key system, master key consultation and key meetings, maybe you don't charge for those. Well, the customer's getting that as a value and you're not documenting it. Maybe there is door surveys that you're doing that are complimentary as part of a project that you're not charging for, but the customer
writing a specification is another one.
Specs, there's lots of those things that if you to what you were saying, Lars, is adding that value. Well, here's the price. Here are all of the things that we're doing in association with this price. As you're shopping that, make sure that these are covered in that, because you may take this to another vendor and they're not going to do all of these additional service offerings associated with it.
And I think really highlights, sorry, Tom, but it really highlights the relationship part of it for sure, is understanding the relationship with the customer. But something we're guilty of is, okay, this is what you need. Yeah, we'll type this up and okay, we'll send it off. But we don't have that dialogue to explain that value. that's one of the hardest barriers today in sales is everyone wants to, hey, we'll jump on a call. And I just want to say, piss off. I don't want to be on a call with you.
Let's get on a Teams call. Let's get on a Teams call.
I'll just book it for an hour.
That's a good way to get Chad excited.
Yeah, let's just, Teams specifically, yes.
Right.
Bill Gates is never going to sponsor this podcast, guys.
That's
worried
just fine.
about that.
I'm okay with that.
Well, I was kind of hoping he would, or Bezos, one or the other. But I think I had a point here before I got into Bezos.
Yeah, the follow up in the dialogue around
explaining that
process.
Value is you have. I'm going to use the word market, but you have to be able to, position yourself and market the services you're bringing, because all of that value add has to be explained. And if you don't have that relationship with the customer, all you're doing is basically sending a PDF that says, look at the bottom number and compare it to something else.
Yep.
And that's what we got to get away from.
Yep.
So working on that relationship allows you more time to have that conversation. And if not, you're just going to have a transactional business, and that's going to be a huge detriment to your business's growth for sure.
Well, another point of discipline, I think, around the pricing, just to add in there, one is quarterly pricing reviews. Mm-hmm. This is something we have always been terrible with, and it's something that we've implemented over the past 6 months. So it's on the calendar. It's on a recurring schedule. It's in stone now. Mm-hmm. On a quarterly basis, we have a team of people that come together and review our pricing structure for not just services, but for products as well. Mm-hmm. And we have, there's tons of data, right? But you can track the pricing, and you can track the volume up and down.
So I have a lot of questions on this, so be prepared.
Good. What?
Why quarterly?
Monthly's too much.
3 months.
Monthly's too much.
I know what a quarter
enough.
means, but for our listeners' sake, I'm trying to
so you
understand why so frequently. That seems like a lot to me.
Oh, well, it's probably should be done faster, but it's keeping things on a pulse on a shorter period of time versus an annual basis. If you're tracking on an annual basis, so if it's a quarterly basis, you can make micro adjustments quarterly. So maybe on an annual basis, like you said earlier, 5% increase. Well, maybe you need to make a 2% increase every quarter because you can track sensitivity to it, or maybe you have tracked too high.
It's faster feedback, right? Yeah. Just like anything else, it's failing faster. The faster you can do it, like realistically, like just in time, immediately, every time you could do that. If there was an AI tool that could kind of understand the market, like using data to make it objective, that would certainly be ideal. But
so you said you include a team of people in that.
Correct.
What does that mean? Like what types of people are involved in that?
So we have a representative from our customer service. So that's real direct customer feedback for pricing sensitivity. We have somebody that is representing the sales team, so they understand from the sales side. We have a representative from all of our branches from the retail side, making sure that there's retail feedback included. Project management, purchasing, operations manager, and a branch manager. So you've got some balanced feedback across the organization. I sit in on the meeting as well to give from an executive leadership standpoint.
Stroke your beard and say, well, it occurs to me that.
So it's basically your leadership team.
No, it's not my leadership team. It is a select group of people from each of the elements that would have a good feedback loop on
the closest to the customer. Right. Yeah. It's the closest to the situation. Yeah. It is always best. Whatever you're trying to figure out is get involved with the people that are closest to the problem or the situation that you're discussing.
And just to give you a little bit more on it, so that there's tactical association around it, one of the items is a sensitivity analysis. So this is the products and services that we have with the least pricing sensitivity. So that comes from the purchasing team, how they can identify that. They've got tons of data that they can pull back in. Wraparound charges and additional fees. So wraparound charges that we are either not charging enough for, so we're losing on. So i.e. freight. If we're receiving freight charges from a manufacturer to get something in an earlier time frame or a large freight load, then are we making sure that we're translating that over to the customer? Are we doing that? And then any additional fees, like we were talking about, key system generations, consult design,
value added services.
Yep.
Yeah.
Untapped revenue streams. So thinking about new areas that we are currently doing for free that either we need to list as a value add, or maybe it's something that is exceeded that value add and now is turned into an actual charge. And then margin optimization is another item on there. So it is a systematic agenda that they go through, a process that they review, and then they come back with the results, and then they proceed on that on a quarterly basis. Okay, we're going to pause and wait right there. So don't go anywhere. We are going to split this up into two different parts. That is the conclusion of part number one, talking about how to make sure that you're profiting off of your products and your pricing. Make sure your pricing is set up correctly. I'm really excited about this conversation. I'm sharing this with you in the post, so I know what we talked about, and there's a lot to unpack in the second half of this episode, and I don't want you to miss it. So we're going to take this into two smaller bite-sized components for you. Now, one of the things I want to ask you to do as a favor is please subscribe, whatever platform that you're listening on or watching on right now. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any of the other platforms out there, make sure you subscribe so you get a notification for the next episode. We're releasing these every Thursday, and I want you to make sure you get this second part because it's very valuable. It's just a long conversation, as many of those are with the three of us. So please do that. Check out our website, unlockedpodcast.com. It's got more information about us and a blog post associated with the episodes and all of the previous episodes that we have. So please do that, and we will see you next week when we get into part two of this conversation around pricing strategies and making sure that we're making the most of the opportunities that we have and pricing things accurately for our market. Thank you for tuning in to the Unlocked Podcast.